First time I saw Suncrest Bluffs, I was just trying to get home. I crested the bend, hit the brakes, and there they were, 20 cookie-cutter rental cabins squatting on my family's ridge. A fancy sign said, Suncrest Bluffs, an exclusive mountain retreat, like they were doing me a favor by stealing my view. A guy in a too-tight navy shirt and a party store badge stood in my road like he owned the county. Private property. Turn around, he squeaked, one hand hovering over a civilian taser, like that made him 10 feet tall. Funny, I said, calm as I could. I own this private property. All of it. He smirked and name-dropped his boss, Dana Whitmore, HOA president down in the valley, famous for treating rules like weapons. And the moment he did, I knew exactly what kind of mess I had stepped into. I called Sheriff Nolan Price, a man carved out of the same granite as this hill. 10 minutes later, he rolled up, took one look at the costume badge, and told the guy, Todd, to take it off. No yelling. No show, just that quiet lawman tone that makes grown men remember their middle names. Then, Dana buzzed down in a golf cart. Sunglasses quilted vest smile that never reached her eyes. She handed over a deed that said my granddad sold the ridge to a shell company 4 days after we buried him. Yeah, that happened. I looked at the signature and felt the heat crawl up my neck. My granddad's hand shook at the end. This signature didn't. Sheriff Price said the part nobody wants to hear. Civil dispute, not criminal. Get a lawyer. He cuffed Todd for impersonating and drove off. Dana told me to move my truck off her road. Not your road, I said, and watched her vanish up the hill, already planning my next move. Ruth Calder's office sits over a bakery, smells like butter and old paper, and she's got the kind of eyes that cut through excuses. We walked to the recorder's office, asked Ava Monroe for the original deed, and there it was. Same too-clean signature, notarized by a man who retired 2 years ago and reported his stamp and logbook stolen on the way out of town. Ava clicked around, printed a police report, then cross-referenced every filing with that stolen stamp. 5 transfers in 6 months, all into shell companies inside Dana's HOA footprint. Pattern confirmed. Receipts in hand. Ruth said bring the DA when it's safe to touch. In the meantime, what do you know about how those cabins are actually built? So I parked with binoculars and looked with an inspector's eye. Propane lines laid like extension cords tanks, huddled too close to walls' decks, with no diagonal bracing. Not a speck of excavation where a proper leach field should be for that many units. Families were already staying there, kids in puffy jackets climbing porch rails, and I felt that hard little knot start under my ribs. We handed photos, notes, and Ava's printouts to District Attorney Evan Cho. He read everything, tapped the page where the stamp was stolen, and said the magic phrase, "Fraud takes time, public safety does not." By late morning, we had a warrant, and a small convoy crept up my hill. Fire Marshal, Building Inspector, County Health. Ruth Cho me in my old Chevy. No blockade this time. The fire marshal walked 2 steps, saw the propane cluster, and said absolutely not. The building inspector stepped on a deck that wobbled under his weight and started writing. Health asked for septic permits and got air. Red tags hit doors like a drumbeat, unsafe for human occupancy. And by noon, the resort was a ghost town with suitcases. I won't lie, watching the cash spigot turn off on the thing that defaced my ridge felt like justice. But the sky was turning purple, and the radio said a once-in-a-decade blizzard was coming. So I dropped Ruth and Cho back in town, then parked at the Overlook, where I could see those cabins fade into the storm, and told myself I was just keeping watch. Close to midnight, the scanner cracked through the wind. Help. Suncrest. Cabin 12. Baby. Smells like gas. That's all I needed. 4-wheel drive, low gear, slow crawl by memory and headlights. The cabin was dark, the air sweet and wrong. A young dad shaking a mom, holding a baby with that tight, dry cough. No parent forgets. Out, I said now. I cracked doors to vent, tucked the family into my warm truck, then followed the copper line with a flashlight to a hissing fitting. Bad, but not the worst thing. The worst was the 1,000+ gallon tank feeding the whole web, frozen shut in the wind. I grabbed my pipe wrench, leaned my weight, felt the ice pop like a rifle shot, and turned until the hiss died. I stood there, breathing fog, and saw her. Dana on the porch, parka zipped eyes, not grateful. Just angry I existed. No words. The storm broke near dawn, like someone lifted a curtain. The plows crawled up like turtles. The baby finally slept, and Dana trudged across the snow in boots that cost more than my first toolbox. "We need to talk," she said. No thank you, no acknowledgement that the ridge almost turned into a crater. "Just business. You made your point," she said. Voice flat. "You cost me money. Lawyers will eat us alive." I have a business solution. I had a hunch, so I clicked record on my phone and slid it in my coat. One-party consent. You know what I mean. What kind of solution, I asked. $600,000 cash, she said. You sign a quitclaim, we backdate if needed. The first deed was a shortcut, and it's become a complication. This cleans it up. I let the silence sit until you could hear the plows breathe. Then I took out my phone and hit play. Her own voice spilled into the cold. The color drained out of her face so fast it was almost a magic trick. That was the twist right there. Not just fraud by paperwork, but a bribe on tape at sunrise after a night that could have killed a family. From there, it moved quick. Cho's investigator found the retired notary in Arizona watering succulents, and the man pulled out a day planner with ticket stubs and a photo line that put him 3 states away on the supposed notarization date. The surveyor, Trent Daly, confessed when Cho laid out the penalties, admitted he took cash to rush and backdate. Admitted the lines encroached on state land. My friend Nina Reyes used to do forensic accounting for the feds before she got tired of red tape. Traced 12 shell companies back to the same P.O. box, same burner phone, same private lenders who don't ask questions. Suncrest wasn't a resort. It was a juggling act running on other people's land and unsafe shortcuts, and the inspection had cut the cash flow at the neck. Court day. The old benches complained like they always do. Judge Harper Lee read Ruth's motion and Dana's response, then looked over her readers and asked Dana's lawyer. The question every hustler dreads, why are we here? He said disputed facts. She said the notary was out of state. The surveyor confessed the defendant is on tape, offering a bribe and admitting a shortcut. Which fact do you want to argue first? Motion granted. Quiet title restored to me. Disgorgement of profits into a trust to remove the illegal structures and restore the ridge under county supervision. And then Cho stood up and read the charges. Fraud, forgery, bribery, multiple counts of reckless endangerment, one for racketeering pattern. And the judge remanded Dana on the spot. The click of those cuffs was small and loud at the same time, if that makes sense. Spring does what spring does. Snow melts, sap rises. The ridge smells like wet earth and pine again. A demolition crew I trust took those cabins apart like you unbuild a mistake. Slow, careful sorting everything so the land could breathe. Paid for by the same accounts the rent used to feed. Ava stamped my clean deed and tucked a sticky note on top that said, "Welcome home." Uncle Ray walked the slope with me, knocked the ground with his boot, where an old game trail used to snake between the fur, and said my granddad would be proud. I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel vengeful. I felt like a contractor who found a cracked foundation and did the work. We're replanting native fir, tearing out useless roads, restoring old drainage. Nina helped set up restitution for other families who got hit by the same trick, 4 of them already holding their land again. I keep the recording on my phone as a reminder, not a trophy that quiet beats loud when you have receipts. People ask if I hate HOAs now. I don't. A neighborhood needs rules, but rules in the wrong hands turn into a cudgel, and paperwork can be a mask. And what you do when someone swings that at your head says a lot about who you are. Here's the part folks argue about. If Dana had come to me straight at the start with a fair offer, real permits a plan that protected the ridge and paid right, would I have considered it? I tell myself probably not. And maybe that's pride. Or maybe that's the promise I made as a kid. Planting saplings with my granddad, to be the person who stands between this place and anybody trying to cheat it. You tell me. Was I right to fight it to the end? Or should a clean deal have been possible if the first step wasn't a lie? Drop your take in the comments. Tell me where control ends and community begins. Tell me if you've ever watched an HOA or a neighbor weaponize paperwork and how you handled it. If you believe receipts still matter in a world that runs on spin. Hit like, hit subscribe, and share this with the one friend who needs to hear that quiet people win when they do the work.